Today we have One Take Patrick. Patrick Jones, District 4 Supervisor.
For 2 more weeks.
For 2 more weeks. I believe your last meeting's
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, if you're, we'll make sure to air this today, so that makes sense. Doing a few interviews today. And anyways, I'm trying to get everybody in here that's paying attention, that knows what's going on a local level here, to get in here and just kind of inform the public about, what's going on in the county. And I mean, that can go up to the state and the federal level, but mostly covering what affects us here locally in Shasta County. And so that's why we brought in One Take Patrick.
There you go. Well, I've had a good 4 years, so pretty happy with particularly the last 2 years from 2023 and 2024. We've got a lot accomplished. We've had a lot of changes at the county that the public may not see. And of course, the mainstream media always gets it wrong. They say there's an exodus of county employees. Well, it's not really, that's not the case. It's that we've been having changes. Now, there's been some firings, but most people resign feeling that the new board and their views are not going to match. And a little bit shocking in that normally, whatever the will of the board, our staff carries it out, right? That's how it works. And boards come and go, just like I'm leaving at the end of the year. New board comes in, whatever the will of that board is, staff should be carrying that out. That's not exactly what was happening in the past in a large area. I can say now with new leadership, starting with the CEO position, Dave Rickard, the will of the board will be carried out. We have better legal counsel, much better legal counsel today. We have a great health officer, support services, health and human services, and so we have new leadership in a lot of these top positions. And the only one right now that I'm really disappointed in so far is the new ROV. That's the one that really has disappointed me. We had several meetings with Tom Toller before that appointment took place, and we knew how important the ROV was. 5-6 years ago, I did not recognize how valuable that position is, but today we knew it. And we had a choice, and the majority of the board ultimately, under the leadership of Kevin Cry, chose Tom Toller. And the one thing that he had promised us was that this was going to be the most transparent election that we've ever had, because that really was what was lacking in the past, is that Kathy Allen, didn't appreciate observers, and were holding observers at quite a distance so that we no longer had meaningful observation. And in fact, the atmosphere within the ROV office was one of hostility. It was a hostile environment for observers. And Tom said we were going to have, ROV Toller said we would have a very transparent election. And so I was really looking forward to that. And that's how you restore trust. That's what was necessary. That's what's been needed. It's been needed across the country to engage the public so that they have an opportunity to look and observe at all ballots. And it should be a very public process, and to be able to see every ballot and what you're doing so that it's understandable. And they're holding us at a distance. I went down there on election morning, witnessed this process that was going on with these ballots that couldn't be scanned. They were then being scanned through another machine, and then a new electronic image of them was created. But that new electronic image had errors, meaning entire races were left off in some cases, and then the human would have to correct it. And, they were looking at roughly 150,000 images, and so there was a lot of work to be done there. I showed our CEO, he came down in the afternoon with me to see this process that is failing. And the good news is the board, on our last meeting, we have now sent off 2 letters to the United States Department of Justice to investigate these time changes that Dr. Hobbs has talked about with Hart, and then also with Runbeck. So we have 2 separate letters. They're going to send those letters out now, but we're also going to send those letters out with the new administration. I think that's pretty important. Our only hope on this is with Trump's team, not with the current administration, and certainly not with the state of California. They're very well aware of these issues, and we certainly won't get to the bottom of it. But the next administration very much think that we have a chance. And so they're looking at both the 2024 primary, and then the general election as well. So looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of election codes and laws and whatever name you want to put on it has been retaliatory towards, Shasta County and a lot of other places trying to have more trans.
Hadn't noticed.
Yeah, and it's just like you're like, hey, we want to have voter ID. Okay, boom, you can't do that.
Right.
And so
well, in 2023, I was so proud that the board got rid of the Dominion voting machine contract and went to hand count, and that was the right maneuver. And of course, the state passed right after that 969 to try to tie our hands in that effort. And we had reporters come from around the world asking, and I find it very interesting that and I'd asked quite a few of these reporters, whether they were from the Netherlands or Germany or wherever they were from, why would you come to Shasta County to do a story just because we got rid of electronic voting machines and going to count ballots by hand? What's the big deal? It's a small county. No one really knows us outside of here in Northern California. Most people wouldn't even know Shasta County. None of them had an answer, but they spent quite a bit of money to do a story to come here to Shasta County. And I think what they were thinking as to why this was a story and why it was an international story was because if we did it and were successful, I think you would have. The domino effect would have started happening, and we would start seeing counties across this country start changing. And what you would see with change is probably a different result because we've eliminated a major way of cheating. Now, years ago, and I've ran, 6, 7, 8 races. I've ran a lot, starting in 2002, and won and lost races, and never really had any thought about elections until 2020. And I won that year, but I knew something was wrong with my race. And I knew the numbers were not right. And, besides what happened to President Trump that night, I felt that there was something wrong in Shasta County for the first time. And sure enough, when we started then analyzing, I didn't even know what a VoteCast record was at the time, but as we learned about these different tools to take a look at our elections, we started seeing patterns that were impossible. And since that time, in fact, particularly in 2023, I did a lot of town hall meetings, and I brought in experts like Dr. Frank and Jeffrey O'Donnell and others to come in, and Clint Curtis to come in to let the county residents know about the data that they've been analyzing for Shasta County. And, the last time Dr. Frank came here showing that our voter rolls go up and then down in the same percentage for the last 20 straight years is clearly computer manipulated. But he went further than that, and he took a look at all counties, and with the exception of Modoc County, all the counties in California, the voter rolls are going up and down the same for the last 20 years.
It was almost like they forgot about Modoc, right? Because everything else just the trends are, it's just, you can't have that kind of synchronicity. I've tried to explain it because I've looked at this data you're talking about, and the way I look at it is like you have all these different places that are listening to Beethoven at the exact same time and playing a symphony together exactly the same. And that's just not the way it is, because you have different counties and different cities and different areas that think different, and you're going to see different trends. You're not going to see the exact same trend across the board unless there's some kind of algorithm. I mean, from my perspective, I'm not an expert on that, but just common sense tells me from a regular person perspective that there's no way everybody thinks the same in every county. Because I know from my business, okay, and you would see that with guns too, that people buy certain things in certain areas at different you can have someone and they come up and ask for some gun that you're like, I haven't sold one of those in 12 years. And they're like, that's all we sell down in over yonder.
Right. Well, and the trend that we should have seen in all counties is that before an election, voter rolls should go up, right? People are going to want to register before an election, especially a presidential election. You probably see a little higher tech. And so you should see similar numbers, percentages going up before an election. But to have the same percentage in all the counties and then it go down, it should not be going down in the same percentage that it goes up. That is irrational, and it's not logical, and there's no explanation for it. But again, if you take this information and you take it to court, they will throw it right out. and say that you have no evidence, and and that's what we're seeing, and we've seen it here in Shasta County. We see it elsewhere, and there's plenty of evidence out there. It's undeniable that we have not had fair elections. And my take on this is taking a look at going back to the Secretary of State, California Secretary of State, and take a look in their internal records and some of their communications. And so there were troubles early on in 2004, 5, 6, 7, and the state seemed like they were making lots of attempts. They were decertifying machines for vote flipping. They were changing machines. They were fining companies for these machines and these errors that were occurring. And it seemed like time and effort was put in by the Secretary of State in those years to fix the problem. They've identified the problem. The hacking was going on easily, and everybody that tried to hack these machines were being able to get into them within hours. And so it seemed like there was quite an effort to fix this problem. And then I think later on, a few years later on, maybe 2012, I think the thinking was, let's control this. Instead of fixing it, let's control it.
Well, why would you want to let anybody hack in when you can?
If you can control it, the value of controlling it means you control, who gets elected. And
let's just be honest here. We're in California. Obviously, there's an agenda.
Absolutely.
This is not just a Shasta County or a California or a United States problem. This is a global problem.
Well, it affects the entire world. When you have 3 proprietary software machines, which are all made in China, by the way, and you can't look at them, and if you want to look at them, ask Tina Peters what happens when you try to have fair
We'll just send you to jail or prison, right, or we'll give you some felonies. No, just saying.
That is just insanity. To make me purchase one of 3 machines that are proprietary that I can't verify what's going on is absolutely insanity. And that's what we have in most counties throughout the United States.
Can you imagine going to a drag race and you're limited to a certain type engine or something, and then you're like, but you can't look under the engine over here. And they've got it, and you're like, but I can, there's no way they're running, the same class as me or whatever. And you can't open the hood and look. Why can't you?
It's just obvious they don't want, they understand the problem. And they have lied to the American people. The media is very powerful, so half the country thinks we have fair elections. And then when you really start doing the work and analyzing the data, you're going to start seeing it very differently. And early on, I was able to talk quite a few times to Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, and he's another one of the brilliant guys that worked in Arizona to find troubles there. Brilliant guy, over 100 patents, and he told me early on, I really didn't believe him, but I now know that he is correct in that there are many different ways that different areas cheat, and they just have to get on the other side of the goalpost. And they don't cheat all the time. They don't cheat in the same manner every time. There's multiple different ways of cheating, and that's kind of what we have spread out throughout the United States. And the only real way to fix it is to go back to having a paper ballot and have those paper ballots counted by hand by citizens of each county, which would be a great thing because it would be a day of voting and a day of counting ballots with hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, and it would really bring people together in a way that we haven't seen before. I took part of a recount for Gary Cadd in 2012, and that's what that did. We came together. We had 3 sets of eyes on every ballot. We agreed on every mark on every ballot. The computer couldn't do it as well as the humans, and we all became better friends after that. And that's what needs to happen. They are purposely trying to divide us.
I believe there was 200 discrepancies on around 200.
Yeah, there was a little over 200
and it only changed the votes by 2, so it wasn't like there was intentional manipulation. Right. But even if you just throw intentional manipulation out of the window, you still have the error of the machine.
Right.
Even with
the machines have a hard time when people don't follow the complete instructions. For example, when you're supposed to fill in a bubble, but you circle it. Now, that's supposed to be kicked out for adjudication, and sometimes it did, but sometimes the computer picked the wrong one. And it was clear to the human that the circled bubble was the vote, right? But the machine had trouble with that. Another one that we had more frequently was a bubble was filled in completely, but a little bit of ink on the other bubble. Now you have ink on both bubbles, and again, most of the time or some of the time, it would kick it out for adjudication, but sometimes it would just pick it wrong. And again, to the human, it's like one has a little bitty speck of ink that's clearly not who they wanted, it was the other person we would correct that. And that happened hundreds of times. Computers are not very good with this stuff. What they are good is they're fast. And if there was no outside manipulation, I'd love to use them because they can be fast, and you can use less people. The problem by doing this system is that it is not trustworthy. We can't see inside, and we're missing the opportunity to engage the public, which is what we need right now. We need the public to engage. We need an election day where hundreds and hundreds of people working in 3 and 4 person shifts and working for 4 hours at a time, we could count all these ballots in a very short time period, do it accurately, engage the public. They could see every ballot that was cast, and it really would restore trust within the elections across the country. I'm hopeful with the new administration coming in Washington that something on the federal level could be done. And I know elections are very much a state-by-state process. But clearly, we have to have some changes because there are people in office that shouldn't be in office, and that's not right. That completely disenfranchises the voter. And and I really thought we were going to fix it in Shasta County, and we made the attempt to do so in 2023, only to have the state come around. And that just tells you how crooked the state is. If we want to count ballots by hand, as a county, we should be allowed to do that. Otherwise, we don't need a board of supervisors, right? We can just have the state tell us to do everything, right? That would be great.
Well, we might as well just follow what the UN says or the World Economic Forum at that point.
There's nobody that can do better work down on the county level than a county supervisor connected to their district. For me, I've been here over 50 years. I've lived actually in every district in Shasta County, and that's the type of decisions that need to be done is by local people that have lived here, that understand the people and what they want. And we're being stripped of that day after day by a tyrannical Sacramento government passing 1,000 laws a year, incredibly stupid, stripping our ability for not only elections, but for land use planning like they're doing with Fountain Wind or attempting to do, and allowing the California Energy Commission to take the authority away from the county. That's super dangerous because while there is a possibility that this project may move forward in Shasta County, what it means for every county in California is you could have the same thing and it's out of your local control. And so we're at a very important time in Shasta County's history. And Sacramento is out of touch with rural California. You saw the map. You saw a lot of red on that California map. And that's all the people being disenfranchised by the large amounts of people in the big cities, starting in Sacramento and the Bay Area and, of course, down south. And, the movement is continuing that we need better representation. This isn't working in California, and it's not just us. We see the same problem in Nevada. We see the same problem in Oregon and Washington. There are other states, and I'm hopeful that there may be a new method to have representation. And it doesn't necessarily mean splitting a state. It could, but there may be other ways so that we can be represented correctly. Because right now, it's certainly the big cities rule the day, And speaking of our governor, he was here yesterday, and
I'm very frustrated about this because I don't want to cut you off, but I'm a little disappointed that he was willing. The Emperor Newsom was willing, Governor Mussolini was willing to come down here to little old Shasta and didn't really let anybody know he was coming. And your replacement was there. And did you get invited?
No.
Okay. Do you know if anybody else got invited? I saw Heather Hadwick was there.
Yeah, nobody from the county of Shasta.
Well, Heather Hadwick was there, and
right, but she doesn't represent the county.
Not the county, but I just saw why did they get invited?
Right.
And why? If I would have known, I would have loved to go there and been as a journalist and just been like, "Hey, I got some questions for you, Gavin." And that just I'm trying to stay neutral on your replacement as far as Plummer goes. I really want to, but I'm just that is very concerning, his opinion of let's just go along. As far as I'm concerned, the state obviously has made us their enemy, or I mean, there's no, like, can't we all just get along? I'm not okay with that, you know? And why is he in talking with these guys, you know, with Newsom behind the scenes? Like, why does he get invited? I mean, and that's all speculation, but I'm a little bit frustrated that nobody I know that represents me, at least, showed up there.
Well, you know, the state is made up of 58 counties, right? And each county is important. And we have a legislative body, and that is the Shasta County Board of Supervisors. And that is who he should have contacted if he really wanted. So that's the key here. If he wanted to have meaningful discussion, it would be with the current board and our CEO. He didn't want that because that's not what he came here for. He came here just for most likely just a photo opportunity. I'm pretty sure he saw the map, obviously, and saw all that red.
Oh, I think he knows exactly what people think about him in Shasta County.
Right, and he sees how much, you know, Trump got supported here and the other counties in the rural parts of the state, and so he went to several of those. And you know, our CEO wrote a very good letter, you know, stating kind of how we felt about this. And Colusa County has written a very similar letter, a little harsher than ours, and that, hey, if you're going to come, talk to the local leaders, talk to the city council members, talk to the board of supervisors. You'll get a pretty good feel. We represent the people here in this county, and he failed to do that, but it was by design. And obviously, you know, me and him, we probably would not see eye to eye on probably anything. You know, I think we might have agreed once, you know, and so I don't think his policies work very well for rural parts of the California. And the fact of it is, he just doesn't understand, right? When you grow up in a city, that's what you know. I don't understand cities because I didn't grow up in a city other than the city of Redding, a small city, and so I have a hard time understanding very liberal people in the liberal cities, and they can't understand our thinking, and we can't understand theirs. You know, and so all I'm asking is allow us to be free, right? Allow us to live the lives that we want to do. Don't force your way of life upon rural California. We don't want to live in a city. We could choose to. We could all get up and move to LA if we wanted to. We didn't do that. We came here in North California so that we would have more freedoms and be able to get outside and have the luxuries that we do. And the governor just doesn't understand that. And in that regard, he's has done a disservice to himself because he could have come here and gotten hold of the electeds, had a sit-down meeting, listened to our concerns. We would have felt a whole lot better than that. We would have felt that there was probably some meaning, you know, that was you know, helpful.
Yeah, other than a PR stunt.
Right, other than just coming in, not telling anybody, and then leaving. So disappointing, but you know, that's his style, and it's unfortunate. I'm afraid we haven't seen the last of Mr. Newsom while he exits being our governor in a couple years. I think he'll probably attempt a future run at the presidency. And so have a fear over that. I'd like to see him fade away. But you know, every time we have in a governor, you know, when we got rid of certain governors, you know, it's you can get even a worse governor coming back, right? There's no shortages of people that have some pretty woke ideas and then want to have everybody believe in the same things that they do. So not surprising that this turned out this way this week. It was a missed opportunity for him, and we'll still represent the people, and I'll still represent District 4 right up to the very last day. And I'll clean my office out and start another adventure. So not sure I will leave politics completely. I'll probably still go to meetings and stay connected. Will I run for something else? I don't know, but it's sometimes good to have a break. You know, when I ran for city council, I was there. I went to 12 years worth of meetings. I served for 8 years, mayor in 2010. Then I took a break, and that was good to kind of take a break and get away for a little bit. And then I came back.
Yeah, clear the head and figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, and there's other things that that you neglect when you're elected. I'm running ragged, you know, all the time. You know, and you don't get some of your other things done that you want to do in life, and so I'll have an opportunity to do that, and then quite possibly could come back as early as 2 years or possibly 4, depending on what's the next opportunity, whether would I look at an assembly run or a Senate run, or just stay with the board. Hard to say. When I left City Hall, I did not think that I would become a supervisor, and nor that I would ever be chair of the Board of Supervisors. And those things did happen. So everything has a purpose, and I also would like to see the right people get elected. And I have a strong desire to help people that we know that are good conservatives to get elected. I think that's important. We haven't done that enough in the past. It's kind of why we got into the trouble in the first place, is because we left that to blow in the wind. And like anything, you have to manage. And if you want a good government, you have to put some effort to it. And super thankful for the effort for the people that put in for the Modi recall. That was a monumental task, and people came together united, and we got that done. And that started the real change at the county. He was a very powerful figure, very corrupted in my opinion, and we were able to start to unravel this onion. And we're still doing that. In fact, tomorrow night you're going to see a very public apology for Captain Cropholler, who was a whistleblower. And Sheriff McGreeny at the time, on his very last day as sheriff, he took Captain Cropholler's badge and gun and walked him right out of the building and put him on paid administrative leave pending an investigation. We believe that was very much wrong. That disrespected Captain Cropholler, and we're going to have a very public apology for him at the board level tomorrow. In the past, you don't see counties, or in our county, do much apologizing when we're wrong. We should have a public apology. And tomorrow night, we're going to do one for a captain that served this county for 28 years. And then we're going to talk R18 about how all that occurred and what happened with that whole process. And so looking forward to that. And I know the board next year will probably also make a couple more apologies for people where the past county employees have harmed them. And they should get an apology. And today, this board, and what I like about this board, and I think with Corky Harmon coming on, I think the board will still be a good conservative board. Be a little different without having me there. I'm really funny, so the humor will be gone. But I think it's going to be a good board. And
maybe it's just dry humor.
It's a little dry. And we'll still get a lot done. And I think the county will still continue to move in a good direction. And the next month I can start talking to all the board members if I so wish to. I don't have the Brown Act any longer, so I'm confined to only talking to one board member on any given issue. Now I can talk to as many as I want with no legal issues. So that'll be good. And again, I'd like to be in a position moving forward to be able to help other candidates that we know will do the right thing. And vetting candidates is a tough thing, just like Thomas Toller, right? We thought we knew who he was. I thought he had some pretty good backbone. Not so much. Didn't get that one right. But other people like Supervisor Kelsterman Cry, they've turned out to have those backbones. And I knew Chris because we grew up together. And so, we grew up in this town. We went to the same schools. We had meager upbringings, but we had good parents, and we had the right ideas. And so I knew Supervisor Kelstrom would do well, and look forward to things he's going to be able to bring forward for his district and for the county. And I didn't know Supervisor Cry before we met him, maybe 8 months before his election. And we got to know him, and he's turned out to be a solid individual, works hard behind the scenes, and he's got 2 phones going pretty much all day and night. And he talks to a lot of people, which is good. He communicates, he gets the message out, and tries to make a good decision. Have we agreed on everything? No, but we've agreed on most stuff, and that's I consider that to be really good. When I was on city council, I was in a lot of 4-to-1s on losing issues time and time again, and it was rare that I could get an issue over the hump on a 3-to-2 or a 4-to-1 or a 5-0, and and so here I think it's healthy to have different thinkings. We don't all have to be the same. And so, when Gary Cadd got elected with me and we started counting, we had, instead of 4-to-1s, there were some 3-to-2s, and they were calling me dysfunctional and this and that. And it's like, that's an incorrect term. We think differently than you do. That's not dysfunction. And it shows different thinking. And when you take a look at the vast majority of the population, we don't all think alike. There should be some differences. It's what ultimately led me to run for city council, is what I didn't like the decisions that I saw that they were making, and I thought I could do better than that, and jumped in and started going. And in those years, in 2002, I had no knowledge of how to run a race or build a team and a coalition to help me get there. That's different today, of course, but we have an opportunity to get candidates and help them not make those early mistakes like I did. It took me 3 times to run. That was a lot of effort to do that, and a lot of tenacity to hang in there to do that. Most people, when they run the first time and they lose, they don't run again. And it's a hard loss when you lose. And so we'd like to help candidates get over that hump. And it can be stuff from, whether it's the SCOE board or school boards. These are all things that we have neglected over the years that I think moving forward we're going to put more effort to, and help shape Shasta County government well into the future. And we have a conservative area. It should be governed by conservative people, and it hadn't in the past. Shasta County is now, and I'm happy to be a part of that and to help shape that. If I weren't here, it wouldn't have happened. So if you think if you're listening and you think one person can't do something, it's not true. People can. A single person can do a lot. I remember when the recall was going on, and Jeremy Edwards come up to me, and I never met Jeremy before, and he said, "Hey, I think we're going to film you guys and do a documentary." And I said, "Well, you going to help us gather signatures?" And he goes, "No." And I said, "Well, okay, well, knock yourself out. I don't know what good filming us will do, but hey, do whatever you want." And so he started filming, and then when the first episode of the Red, White, and Blueprint come out, and I saw how many people saw that and the reach that it had, it's like, wow, there's some real value to that. And so media outlets just like this one, we're going to have to support stations like this as well, so that we can continue to get the word out, because the truth with the Record Searchlight and Channel 7, there is none. They are lying to the public. They're not being truthful. They're spinning their own opinions time and time again, and they're failing. Both of their listenership and their readers are dropping. People are hungry for the truth, and we have, with these kind of mics, there'll be no filter, and we can say what we have seen with our own eyes. And so many times when I watch the news, somebody said, "Well, what do you think about that?" And I'd say, "Well, you know what? I don't believe anything that I just saw unless I was there. If I was there, then I could tell you what happened." You were in Washington on January 6th. What you saw was probably very different than what the national media had tried to portray, and we know it was a lie.
Well, just portraying me as a racist for putting the OK symbol out with my arm around a black guy.
Exactly.
And then it wasn't just, what I saw was 99.9% of people were all peaceful. Right. And there's a lot of information that came about that. But the way the news portrayed what happened, being there, I was there. I was at the Capitol. I saw what was happening. When a cop got dragged out by his feet and dragged into the crowd, and a couple of people started beating him a little bit, the whole crowd said, give him back. And they literally, under pressure, whoever was, I don't know if it was antagonizers or paid operatives, there was a lot of that stuff going on, but there was a lot of pressure to nonviolent. Right. The majority of people, it was like a football game where they're chanting for their team. Right. They gave the officer back to the other cops, and they took him off, and he didn't have any major injuries or anything. But to me, I wanted to be there. I had, unfortunately, I
for 3 days, I really wanted to be there, but I had a board meeting on the same day, and so I wasn't going to be able to make it. But I wanted to be there as showing support for President Trump for what was clearly a stolen election. And I thought we should do something. You know, we should not let a stolen election go by for the President of the United States. It's clearly wrong. And we should do something. You know, we didn't know what to do. You know, and so I just thought, well, show up for a rally is something that we can do. We've done them here in Reading. You know, we had the school walkout where we had, you know, 1,600 people show up. That's where I met Kevin Cry.
Yep.
And I thought, you know, I should be in Washington. We should be doing something. We should not allow our elections to be stolen. And you know, here we are 4 years later. We're very lucky to have President Trump, because the whole entire time I knew he would be elected, but I didn't think he would be our next president because of the cheating. And it looks like they just chose not to cheat this time around. The map that you saw was most likely the same red wave that should have happened in 2020, but there was obviously cheating on election night without question. And you know, this time around they didn't, but that is kind of the MO. They cheat sometimes, they don't cheat sometimes.
What happened to the 15 million voters?
Right.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of questions. There's more questions than answers. And man, I mean, the platform is yours here to express everything, but I have some strong opinions about this. I think we could really have a lot of transparency and simple solutions to this problem. I mean, just same-day voting, voter
now's
ID.
the time to do it. I mean, it's after an election, right? So the election's over. Now's the time to fix it. And people have said, "Hey, you won. You know, what's the problem?" Because they're not fixed. You know, we don't have fair elections. You know, and so they're thinking. You know, for some of my opponents, they're thinking, "Hey, you won. It's all good. You know, we lost everything." And it's like, I want fair elections. And we're not there yet. We're not there in Shasta County yet. We're not there in probably many counties, most counties. And now's the time to fix it. And instead of the parties trying to control it, let's fix it. Let's get to fair elections. And too much time has gone on. This has really been like a 20-year odyssey of allowing selections, not elections. And it's time to get it fixed. And I know here locally there's some real frustrations that we weren't able to fix it the way we wanted to. We went down that path. We did the right thing, got rid of our machines, saved money, trying to engage the public and have a real hand count, and only for the state to block us. And you know, it's sad that occurred, and that was a definite loss for us. And so, but we're not going to give up. You know, we didn't like what occurred, so we're going to press on, and that's, you know, what I will do as well. That is probably it. It didn't start for me to be like one of the biggest issues, but it really is. It is one of the biggest issues for Shasta County, is to have fair elections. And what we saw this time around was probably the worst election in Shasta County's history, with all the things and the errors that were going on, the lack of transparency. You know, it was not what we wanted, and I was there almost every day, you know, through the process to watch, and I saw mistakes every day, lack of transparency. The good news is we're most likely going to change the location. It'll be up to the next board, but Shasta County owns the old courthouse now, and they could keep all of it or part of it. But there is strong talk right now about moving the elections department over to more space over into the old courthouse, where things really could be very open, and that would be a big start. Plus, we save $15,000 in lease, and I think we can get a few other county departments to come over there too, where we're paying lease downtown, and we could probably end up saving about $25,000 a month by keeping a part or all of that old building and turning it in to some new offices for some of our departments. So that's exciting. That'll be up to the next board next year, but that building is ours now. And if we don't do any major modifications to it, then we'll be able to use it almost the way that it is now. So that's something new coming up. And, you know, they'll be discussing that most likely a little further in January, February.
Well, I think that this should be a nonpartisan issue, and I think if there's anything that people from all political spectrums should agree on, is just having free and fair elections. And as Jovan has said, and Clint Curtis has said, there's so many windows of opportunity for this to happen. You can't really pinpoint, and it's so confusing. But I think we have to realize we've been divided and conquered. I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, independent, Green Party, whatever. I don't know, all the Unicorn Party. I don't care. I'm being real. Like, if you're in the Unicorn Party, if that actually exists, I heard that as a joke, but it might be a party. I'm okay. We should all get together and say, hey, let's just make sure that what's right is right.
And it can happen. I've seen it before. And it can happen where everybody gets along and gets through a very public process. But when you strip the public away from what should be a very public process, this is why the ROV, having a real leader in the ROV, could solve all these problems. And I'm at this point, I don't believe that's going to be ROV taller into the future for very long. And I think I will work very hard on working with the next ROV that will do just that, and make sure that we engage the public with meaningful observation. Don't treat observers like they're some sort of vultures. That was a name called by one of the election workers to me, just for simply observing. They called me a vulture. That's not right.
It's intimidation if you ask a question.
Well, and that culture
or
has
point
to,
out a discrepancy.
right.
And that's we saw that in the March of 2022, or was it June? I can't remember. But we saw it back in 2022. We saw it in March of 2024. And if you just want to be a good peasant and make sure that everything is dialed in and you're quiet and you're calm. I mean, we saw, I don't remember the gentleman's name but there's people coming yelling and across the room, this and that. No big deal if you're a buddy of the people in elected office at the ROV. But then when you're like, pss, 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 they're like jumping all over you, man. It's crazy. It's like Yeah,
I know it wasn't right, and but it has been kind of brewing, and we want to change that here. And we have the ability. The ROV is the person to do that. When I was working with Kathy Allen, I asked her, how are you going to restore trust? And she says it's not her job. And it's like, yeah, it is. You lead that department. The Shasta County Board of Supervisors may oversee the elections department, and we certainly control the budget. But the ROV runs the day-to-day operations and creates and sets the tone and the culture for it. And we're not there. We're not engaging the public. I think several of their hiring practices, they're blackballing certain individuals. That's obvious. I want a fair mix. A lottery system, as Dr. Hobbs has talked about, would be the appropriate way to do that. We want people from both sides. We want to have a fair election where the public takes part. That is what should be happening. The counting of ballots is a very public thing, and and so we've got more work to do there. Missed opportunity, obviously, with the selection of Tom Toller, but a year and a half will come very soon, and there will be a new ROV, I'm sure. And I'm looking forward to that, and we'll put some energy into that. That's a very important one coming up.
As you said, position that's been overlooked by many, but probably one of the most important positions in the county.
Yep, and it's the one that I still feel like we didn't fix. That we didn't get the right person.
Well, I mean, look at Tim Garman.
We're not perfect. We thought well of Tim, and he seemed fine in 2022. And then, boy, sure did he change. And, I've seen that on city council as well. In 2012, I saw Rick Bazzetti change very quickly. Yeah. And so I've seen these things before. Some people just lack integrity, but that's for us. We just have to vet people better. And the longer we know people, then we know what you're really made out of. And if we don't know you very much, then we don't know what we're getting. And so moving forward, we're going to be working with people that we know, that have integrity, that care about Shasta County, that want to fix problems. For most of us, this is our home. This is where we're staying. Even in tough California, where we would be freer and wealthier in other states, we're staying here, and we're going to make Shasta County the best that we can. And we have some great people here to work with, and with the right backing, the right help. We've got great teams of people that come forward. This area is very generous, and that's really a good place. We have good people here, and we just need to get the right people elected. And so we've done pretty well. We've had a lot of success, and been real proud with my time on the board. Couldn't be happier, and then we'll see what's next, and maybe I'll be back.
Well, we have not seen the last of Patrick Jones. I can tell you that much. And thank you so much for coming on today. And thank you so much for all your time on the board. And you're just a true patriot. And I appreciate you. And we, the people, appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate being here.